All right, draft tier rankings. So the way that this works is this is going to be my tier rankings of the draft. I don't really need to get into it. We know how this works. Let's just get into it. Starting off with the Tennessee Titans, the five categories here are perfect, really good, got what there was to get, so like fair value for what you had. Then not my favorite, and you did what? And again, to be clear, the way I'm going to do this is not who just got the most value, because, like, obviously the Bears have pick 1 and 9. They're going to get more value than the Browns, who didn't have a first. So, like, it is what it is. Titans, I think maybe I'll start off with a hot take. I don't know. I'm going to do you did what? Just because, again, I like J.C. Latham. I think he's very good. I think that it was a bit of a reach at number 7. He was the 19th ranked prospect. I think he's a good player. I just felt like they reached for need for a team that has several needs and could have gotten some better players. The Tavondre Sweat pick was also earlier than I would have done it. I think he's an interesting prospect and certainly, a big gamble, but, there were some picks that I liked by the Titans, and even those top 2 picks are still like valuable prospects. But, I got to put some teams into you did what tier, so that's what I'm going to do with them. We then have the Miami Dolphins, who, they got their big pick was Chop Robinson. Of course, he was the one they drafted in the first round. Really big fan of him. Really big fan of the Patrick Paul pick as well, and even Jalen Wright. I don't always love running back picks, but I like that one. And then they got, a lot of players on their board were drafted after they were supposed to go on the consensus big boards. So I don't know if I would say it's perfect, but this is a really good draft for me. I'm going to put it in the really good tier. I really liked it. Then we have the Jets, another interesting team, as they could have gone, Alu Fashanu, obviously the guy they drafted in the first round, and then, got some needs with Malaya Corley, who could be an interesting player. A couple picks I didn't fully get, Braylon Allen I kind of understand, but still, getting multiple running backs, okay, fine, I suppose. Getting Jordan Travis, again, I kind of get it, maybe not what I would have done personally, but as a whole, I still thought it was fine. They did a good enough job with the top 2 picks. I'm going to say got what there was to get. That feels fair for me. We then have the Cincinnati Bengals, who, again, I thought had a pretty solid draft. I did put Jermaine Burton on my top 7 under the radar good picks, because, there are some character concerns of him, but I also think that there is some real upside of him. Amarius Mims, kind of good pick there at number 18. I'm going to once again do what I'm probably going to put a lot of these teams in, which is got what there was to get. I think you're going to see a lot of teams end up on this tier or higher, including the Cleveland Browns, who, they got some good players. They just went out and said, hey, who are the best players that we can get? Let's just get good players who played well in college and just hope they can work out at the next level. They might not be stars, but they don't have first rounders, so they need to get contributors. I think they did a pretty good job in that. I'm going to put them in. I didn't love every pick, but I love most of them. I'm going to put them in the really good tier. We then have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had a very Jacksonville Jaguars-esque draft. I'm going to put them in the not my favorite tier. It's simply I specifically worded it this way because I wanted to make it clear that it's a my opinion type thing here. This isn't my favorite draft. I'm not saying you did a bad job. I'm saying you did what I wouldn't have done, which is drafting a million athletes and, kind of the opposite of what the Browns did of, I don't care if you've played well in college or not. You're a good athlete. We want you on the team. So because of that, it's, again, not what I would do, but I'm not going to put it in you did what, because, it could work out. It's just not my thing. So moving on to the Detroit Lions, who, the top 2 picks were awesome. Maybe some head scratchers along the way, but this is still a really good pick. I didn't love a really good draft. I didn't love every selection, but I really liked most of them, and I especially loved the top 2, which are the important selections. They've now really helped out their defense, which they needed to if they're trying to win a Super Bowl, and they just might. Again, really good stuff with them. We then have the Vikings, which, man, where do we put the Vikings? Because obviously J.J. McCarthy and Dallas Turner is kind of they might have just gotten a quarterback of the future and an edge rusher of the future. If they do that, it's hard to argue with anything else. They did trade up a decent amount to do it, and I wasn't as high on Dallas Turner as other people were. I kind of understood why he fell a little bit and wasn't a top 10 pick, although, back half of the first round at pick 17, I really like that value. So I'm going to put him in really good as well. I think this was a solid draft. We didn't have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who to me go into the got what there was to get tier. They, did a pretty good job of, they were drafting for need, but I feel like Jason Light tends to do a pretty decent job at drafting for need, but also getting the best player available, or at least like someone who's in the tier of best player available that just happens to be at a position of need. Like, he'll pay attention to need, but is usually also, he's not like overdrafting for need too much. So while he's not just purely drafting best player available, he's not going crazy in the other direction either. It wasn't crazy about the Bucky Irving running back pick, but like Jay McMillan's really interesting. Chris Braswell I really like at the edge rush position for a 57th overall pick, and Graham Barton should be a good center. So yeah, I'm a fan of that. Then we had the 49ers, who it wasn't my favorite selection that they made across the board, but after kind of thinking about the Ricky Purcell pick, I do have a film study about that, either already out or coming out tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. I'm more warm towards it. I think it's fine. I guess I would still probably say, Bernardo Green pick was a bit of a reach for me. I can't put everyone into positives. I guess I'll put them in not my favorite, but again, I think they did some really interesting things. The Jacob Cowling pick I didn't get at pick 135, whatever, it's pick 135, who cares? But still, that's going to be, but gonna put them there. Atlanta Falcons are perfect, obviously. What's there to critique about the Atlanta Falcons? No. Okay. Obviously, they are going to be in the you did what tier. Again, I've talked about on this channel. I think it's fair to say maybe it's less of a bad decision to draft Michael Penix and more of a bad decision to sign Kirk Cousins. But either way, the fact that they were going to draft Michael Penix now that we know it means that decision to sign Kirk Cousins was bad. Either way, it's there. I also didn't love their second pick. They're in the you did what tier. We then had the Baltimore Ravens, who were another, I thought fine draft. They kind of had some hits or misses. They love to go out and get a lot of different, picks. What they did here, TJ Tampa could be a really good steal at that point. So could someone like Nate Wiggins. Maybe some picks I don't love, but as a whole, I don't know. Thought they did a pretty good job. I'm going to put them in the got what there was to get here. That feels fair for me. Chicago Bears, they could have maybe been perfect if they didn't draft a punter. I don't get why they did that. That was one of my least favorite picks, even though it wasn't a premium pick. It's like you only had 5 picks. You drafted one on a punter. I don't know. I didn't get that, but really good. Obviously getting Caleb Williams. You were supposed to get Caleb Williams. I'm not giving you extra credit for that. It's really the Rome Odunze pick, kind of him falling to you. Good job to not screw things up. Sometimes just take the best player available. Sometimes when they fall, just get that guy. Thought that was a good job by them to do it. We then have the Dallas Cowboys, who, took some chances on some players, on some athletes, hoping that they work out, but kind of got them when you should get them, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2. So yeah, another, I think, solid draft for me here. I'm going to put this in the got what there was to get. We then have the Houston Texans, so we're staying in Texas here. As this wasn't my favorite draft pick, which I have a thing for that, so maybe I should just put them there if that's my first reaction. But I don't know. They had so many picks. They had enough that I liked, even if there wasn't enough. Even if there was some I disliked. I guess I'll put them in not my favorite. But I don't know. They got some good players. It just wasn't my favorite. I loved the trading down though and getting all that extra draft capital. I thought that was good. So did some smart things and some picks I didn't love. The Indianapolis Colts are next on my list. And do we have our first perfect? Well, I want to save the perfects. Maybe I won't even put anyone in there if it comes to that. I really like Le'Veon Latu, really like Adonai Mitchell. The Matt Conclave's pick is interesting to me. I'm not going to put it in perfect, but I am going to put it in really good. Again, I really thought that they got, with their top 2 picks, 2 guys who were projected to be first-round talents. So, yeah, I thought that was really smart. Then we have the Rams. So when I did my winners and losers list, I think I put them in my losers list just because, I didn't love the Blake Corum selection. I don't usually love drafting special teamers, so I didn't love the kicking selection either. And I had a couple other wonkier picks later on. Really like the first 2, though, Jared Verse and Braden Fisk there. So I guess I have to put it in not my favorite, but, I don't know, because again, they traded down so much. It's weird. I like the Texans and Rams' general philosophies of trading down, getting a bunch of picks, all of that stuff. I just didn't love what they did with all of those picks. So if I'm including the trades and stuff like that, I'd probably bump them up a tier. But since I'm not doing that, and just because again, some people have to be in this tier, I will bump them down a little bit. We then have the Chargers, who are, they're not the number one team here. As I like the Joe Alt pick, I really did. I in my mock draft, when I said what I would do without trades, Joe Alt was the guy who I picked to the Chargers. So I don't think that's terrible value, although in my mock draft, Neighbors was still on the board. I would have gone with Neighbors if I could there, but they get the good offensive lineman there and still get a receiver at 33 and still get a good linebacker at pick 69. So they did a really good job. I'm going to put them in the really good tier. That's what I think about them. Now let's go to the Raiders. Man, the Raiders are so close to the first perfect. I love their top two, but I can't put them in perfect. I didn't love all their picks. They had a couple of reaches in the middle rounds. So top two picks were great, but yeah, going to put them in the really good. Then we have Washington, which did some really strong things, especially in day two. I thought they had some really good picks there. I really like Johnny Newton. I think that's kind of a steal, but I wasn't as big of a Daniels fan as other people were, so I'm going to put them in the not my favorite tier, even though I know if I was a big Jaden Daniels fan, they probably would be up to like really good, if not perfect, but I wasn't, so there you go. The Chiefs are here where, I like what the Chiefs did. Like, they got Xavier Worthy, which I made a film study talking about the, Xavier Worthy pick. And, like, I do think the hype has gotten a little bit too far with him, but it still was a really good selection. Kingsley Sumatea, which I got to figure out how to say his name, I thought was a really strong pick at 63. He wasn't a top 50 prospect on my board, but, like, I'm surprised he fell that far and could be a starting level tackle for them. And I thought they had just some really strong picks as well. Guys who could be contributors later on. Again, maybe at the end of this video, I'll bump a couple teams up to perfect. But for now, I'm going to put them in the really good tier as well. And then we have the New Orleans Saints, who, we like the Talise Fuaga and the Kool-Aid McKinstry picks a lot. I thought those were like knocks out of the park. Really, I didn't really have any critiques with what they did later on. Spencer Rattler, sure, at pick 150, I have no issues. Let's do it. Let's finally put one in the perfect tier. Gotta put someone there. New Orleans Saints, well done, I thought, from what you did. Let's go to the Giants. Again, a lot of positive feelings for some of these teams because I thought there were a lot of teams that did some positive things. So for the Giants, who Malik Neighbors is obviously a really good one. Tyler Nubin, a really good pick as well. I don't have any critiques with any of them. They didn't make one of my 7 winners list, but like I did think about them pretty hard. Just didn't quite make it. Again, really good. Didn't go quarterback, which you could have maybe argued they should have, but I kind of like burning a year on the Jones contract. You're mostly out of it after this year, so let's just wait a year, kind of rebuild that way, and then we can hopefully get, kind of the 3-ish, I would say 3 years of a rookie deal on a cheap deal if you get a quarterback next year. So, yes, I know this is a great quarterback draft. I promise you there will be quarterbacks worth taking chances on next year as well. We then have the Eagles, who... this is interesting. So, obviously Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper John were great top 2 picks, like, 10 out of 10, no notes there. Maybe a couple of slight, didn't love that, but I also thought they made up for it more in the later rounds as well. Johnny Wilson's a receiver I'm really fascinated with, and I think for pick 185 is totally worth it. So let's, keep the perfect train rolling. Why don't we? Let's give the Eagles a perfect here. So 2 perfects, and now let's go from a team that used to be the same as the Eagles. There was one year where they were the Steagles, and they played together. They combined all their players and played together. That's a real thing, because football, anytime you go back 50 years in football, just seems like a made-up sport. So that's what happened. It was during World War II. That's why they didn't have enough players, so they had to combine. But yeah, it's a real thing that happened. I really like what the Steelers did. Now, I'm not a crazy Troy Fontenot head, I suppose, or even Zach Frazier, but I liked them both enough, and I thought that when they were drafted was totally good. And even like Roman Wilson and Peyton Wilson, I wasn't as high on as other people. But when they fell in the draft, I thought it was the smart call to go up and get them once they fell like that. So yeah, I think some people would probably put them in the perfect tier. I'm not quite there with them, but they're another really good draft, and they did make my 7 winners list for what it's worth. So you have that going for you. Then you have the Broncos, who, again, a lot of positive feelings, almost like got what there was to get. Feels like a negative tier with how this is going, but listen, Bo Nix is a controversial prospect. Some people love him, some people hate him. I don't hate him. I'm in between. I think there is some, I had kind of more of a late first round, early second round grade on him. They decided to get him at 12, but if you want a quarterback, sometimes don't wait. Just go up and get the guy. Fine, I get it. I also really loved adding Troy Franklin to the mix. That was a really strong pick. I think the other picks were solid. Like I don't think they moved the needle too much for me. So even though the Bo Nix pick is a quote unquote reach, it's a quarterback, so I'm gonna forgive it. I'm gonna put them in the got what there was to get tier. That feels fair for me because a slight reach on Nix, but also a pretty good steal on Franklin, and it's a quarterback, so I'm gonna call all that a wash. Then we have the Packers, who had some picks I really loved. Like the Edgerrin Cooper pick and the Javon Bullard pick were really good. Don't know if I love the Marshawn Lloyd selection personally, and they had a couple weird ones where like they had a run where they drafted players who 3 in a row who were 80 spots of a reach according to the consensus big board. And I'm not crazy about the Jordan Morgan selection, although I think he still could be a solid prospect. So not quite you did what. They did enough good to be out of there, but it is in the not my favorite tier. Then we have the Carolina Panthers, who were one of the more talked about teams heading into the draft that did not have a first round pick, just given the uniqueness of their situation. But, guys like Xavier Legette and Jatavian Sanders, I think could be really good weapons for Bryce Young. And even Jonathan Brooks, I don't hate that pick. I know a lot of people will, but you need a weapon. It's a second round pick. It's a bit high for a running back, sure, but again, rules change when you're trying to develop a young quarterback. Do what you can to develop the young quarterback. A couple picks I didn't fully get. The Trayvon Wallace one was kind of a one I didn't love, but as a whole, thought they did a solid job. Going to be another got what there was to get tier team for me. Next up is the Arizona Cardinals, who loved the Marvin Harrison selection. I thought that was great. Then I had some that just were prospects I wasn't as crazy about. Like Darius Robinson wasn't someone I was crazy about. The Trey Benson pick I didn't love. Isaiah Adams was kind of a honestly had a couple of reaches in a row. If Isaiah Adams, Tip Raymond, Elijah Jones. So not every pick I loved, but I did love that they got so many players that some of these guys are going to hit. So while it's not my favorite draft, again, part of that just comes to my evaluation was different than their evaluation was, and I like getting a lot of picks, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be awesome. So certainly wasn't a bad draft, which is why it's in the not, if you're into not my favorite draft, that doesn't mean you were a bad drafted team. It's not what I would have done. Buffalo Bills were, I love how they kept trading down. That was smart. I think that was a good idea, especially because Keon Coleman, I think, is better than the receivers that went above them. At least he was higher on my board personally. So, everyone made fun of the Bills for trading with the Chiefs, but, I don't know. The Chiefs are going to get a receiver anyway. If you're not drafting that guy, let the Chiefs draft him and get extra draft capital. It makes sense for me personally. I do understand the logic of, should you be trading with the team to beat in the AFC? But at the end of the day, if it makes you better, it's still probably worth it, right? Some interesting picks. They drafted a guy who has never played football before. That's fun. I don't know exactly how some of these picks are going to work out, but I thought it was a fine draft. A couple of maybe slight reaches, and then a couple of nice picks as well. So I'm going to just put them into got what there was to get tier here. Then we have Seattle, who, listen. Really loved the Byron Murphy pick, and even the Christian Haynes pick I thought was solid. I thought they had a pretty quality draft, getting some players I think could play later on in the draft as well. So yeah, I think, again, Byron Murphy should have been talked about more as a top 10 pick. They get him at 16. That's a bit of a steal. I am going to go with really good for that. And now let's go to the New England Patriots, who... I didn't love every pick they made, so I can't put them in the perfect tier, but getting Drake May at 3 was just such a, in my opinion, steal. I'm going to put them in the really good tier. Yes, I have some notes of some of the other picks, but that's fine. You did what you had to do. I even like doubling down on quarterback, getting a backup quarterback, Joe Milton. That was smart. And kind of a guy who has similar skill sets to Drake May. So, yeah, as a whole, is there anyone I'm going to consider maybe bumping up to the perfect? I don't think so. I can't think of any team that I would really want to. I think Saints and Eagles feel fine to me as the top two, and then everyone else is really good. I think that works. Only two you did what's. Only a handful of not my favorites. I thought it was a strong draft. Usually there's a lot more hot takes I can give. Not this time. So I guess teams are either I'm being smarter or the teams are being smarter. I'm not sure which one it is. Probably not the teams are being smarter. Maybe I'm actually understanding what teams are doing more and was dumber in previous drafts and was criticizing teams for making smart decisions. I don't know. But either way, thought this was a well done draft. Again, I'm interested in seeing which takes end up aging horribly, because that's going to happen. I'm sure J.C. Latham will be an All-Pro, and Michael Penix will win 5 Super Bowls with the Falcons. Hey, wouldn't be the first time I was horribly wrong on my draft evaluations, but these are my tier rankings. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.